Yeah.
Here, welcome to another edition of Rock and Recovery. Welcome to Rock and Recovery, where we recover out loud and on purpose. And our guest today is Lindsay. How's it going, Lindsay?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing, better than yesterday, I think. I think
That's
that's a positive anyway. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and everything you've gone through, and we'll just jump right in. No
okay.
script.
Sounds good. Well, I am a farmer's wife. We live in a small northeast town in Kansas, northeast Kansas, and it's a rural community farming. We run 4 businesses. Between the two of us, we have 4 kids. All 4 of our kids work with us every day in some aspect. We've got 3 grandkids, and we've been through a lot. I put the family through a lot. Back in August of 2016, I got divorced after 12 years of marriage. And I'm not going to say that it was physically abusive, because it wasn't. There were some verbal abuse, or was some verbal abuse, definite emotional abuse. And it wasn't just on me, it was on my daughter and my son as well. And so after I got divorced, I thought, well, this is going to be my time to start over, find someone or that would treat me and my kids the way they needed to be treated. But unfortunately, I fell into yet another relationship with a very, very big narcissist, very abusive in all aspects to me and both of my kids. And I didn't feel like I deserved any better. I thought that was my lot in life. But at the time, I was also on the community's volunteer fire department, and I met my best friend there, who turns out to be my husband today. And we were partners. So, we would go out on fire calls, we would go out storm spotting, and just, he was married at the time as well. And so towards the end of 2016, he got divorced after 20 plus, I think it was like 25 years. And that was kind of where it started. We started seeing each other. I was seeing him and my abuser on and off for about a year. And fast forward to September of 2017. It was September 24th, actually my ex-husband's birthday. So I think that played a role in my decision I made that day. I was trying to get away from my abuser. My best friend had been trying to get me away from him for a year. So had my daughter. And I just kind of snapped. Everything went dark. I don't recall much of anything from that afternoon. I know we were driving around, listening to music, drinking, things that we did, the backcountry roads. That's what you do.
Right.
And I don't know, my brain, there was a switch in my brain that flipped. And from there, I don't recall anything for 24 hours. Except for a scream. That's all I recall. My husband now, my best friend back then, he told me that I reached for the door handle. We were going 30 down a gravel road. I reached for the door handle. I opened the door. I screamed as I jumped out.
Mm.
Yes. My my brain back then was very sick. I had been hospitalized twice prior to this for suicidal ideation. I should have probably been hospitalized more than that, because there were times that I would go out walking in the middle of the night up the highway, which was pitch black, hoping that someone would come and, hit me. And
Right.
I wanted the pain to stop. I was in a web of lies. I was cheating. I was stealing. I was doing anything and everything to make ends meet. And unfortunately, I wasn't thinking about my kids. I didn't leave a note because it was a split-second decision. And the next day, I wake up in the hospital. I'm bald because they had to shave my head to do surgery. I've got facial scars down the left side of my face. I, of course, had scrapes all over my body from jumping out of the truck onto a gravel road. And my left arm wouldn't move. It was just hanging there. But even though I had all of these scrapes and, surgery on my forehead, and those did not hurt. The pain wasn't as bad as my emotional pain that I was going through, because now I had to, number one, I had to figure out why I was still alive. I was disappointed when I woke up. And my thought, I saw my daughter sitting in the chair next to me, and I realized that she would have grown up with questions. Why did mom do this? She would have had an idea, because she lived through everything just like I did. But my son would have had questions, their whole lives. And so, yes, the scrapes and bruises and broken parts of me hurt, but my emotional and mental hurt was worse. I realized that I was going to have to tell the truth, and that was very scary, because I've been lying, my entire life. When I
Right.
was, when I was growing up, I got in trouble all the time because of it. So I've always had some sort of mental health issues, but they've never been diagnosed. They've never been treated.
Mhm.
So I spent a week in the hospital on suicide watch. When I left the hospital, I moved in to my mom and dad's house. They lived in Topeka at the time, which is where I ended up self-admitting myself to a mental health facility. My family had an intervention, and they convinced me that that's what I needed to do.
Right.
And in order to continue my life after my hospital stay, I was gonna need to do something, or else I was gonna completely lose custody of both of my kids. And so I went into this mental health facility. I was there for a week. And when I left, I realized that I needed to make some drastic changes. And so I packed up my house. I moved to a different town, because when I moved back to the house I lived in after getting out of the mental hospital, there were everybody whispering, pointing, staring, because here's this person from their community that tried to kill themselves, and now they come home and they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
So I moved to a town about 20 minutes away, and that's where my recovery started. My on September 24th, I thought I was jumping out of the truck to kill myself. And in a way, I did die. the person that I was, the Lindsay that I was, died that night,
Right.
because there was a Lindsay that was reborn. And that is the Lindsay who faced her demons, who started mending relationships, because the relationship between my daughter and I went south pretty quickly. And I can't blame her for,
Absolutely.
she was a junior in high school, senior in high school when all this happened. She was needing to focus on school.
Yeah.
And, I completely understand that. She also needed to focus on herself. And she had some demons she had to get through because of me. And so we talked by text, maybe on and off, very little for a couple years. I fought very hard to get custody of my son back for a couple years. I was going to psychiatric therapy once a week. I was going to physical therapy once a week. And I did that for a year and a half. And then we started
Mm.
backing off on, my therapy would go to every other week, or, every once a month. And now I've not seen my therapist. Well, in the therapy setting, I've seen her,
Right. Right.
but I've not seen her for 5 years.
That-
Maybe 4 years. And I've not gone to physical therapy since COVID.
yeah.
So that has been 5 years. And today I am an award-winning published author. I have been invited on multiple podcasts to tell my story. I've been invited to several platforms to actually, speak and tell my story, and, answer questions from, audience members. And now I'm here to tell my story. That's where my second chance comes in. The Lindsay that was reborn was born to help others.
Right.
I am trying now to do my best to get my story out there, to prove to people that, number one, you are enough.
Absolutely.
Number two, you can get away from the abuser. Because, yes, I was dating two guys at the same time. One was my abuser and one was my rescuer. My rescuer, it was his truck that I was in when I jumped. He got me to the helicopter. He got me, to my psychiatric therapy, to physical therapy. He's been there. He didn't know for 2 days if I was alive or not, but he still has been there for me every day since I jumped out of his truck.
Mm.
And now, like I said, we've got 4 kids between the two of us. We have 4 businesses. We've started 2 businesses in the last 5 years.
Wow.
And we've
Sounds
got,
like you guys been pretty busy.
oh my goodness, yes.
And what's some of the stigma behind suicide and suicide ideation that you want to get rid of that shouldn't really be a stigma? And if in your darkest hour, in your dark, if somebody would have reached out and said, "Hey, are you doing okay?" Would that have made any difference at all?
As for the stigma, I believe that that people think that if you're suicidal, you're selfish. And I don't find that selfish at all. It's not something that a sane person would choose to do. Anybody who chooses to do that is mentally ill and they need help. Suicidal ideation, mental health should not be seen as anything other than another thing to go to the doctor for. People think the word suicide is a bad word, and it's not. It is a scary word, but it's not a bad word. And schools, especially,
Mm.
need to talk about it more than what they do.
They need to have more of an open door, honest policy where, a non repercussion type policy that says, hey, there's people here that you can talk to and nothing's going to come of it. And for
Right.
real, let nothing come of it, because a lot of times there's that stigma of a kid doesn't want to go to somebody like that because something's going to CPS or something else or more questions. And we sometimes people just want to let go and vent, you know, and they
Right.
need to have a safe space to do that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been trying to, of course, shatter the stigma ever since I decided to share my story publicly. I was very guarded. I would not tell people what happened to me. My youngest at the time, he was like 7, and all he knew is that mom got into an auto accident and I wasn't wearing my seatbelt, because at that young age that he doesn't need to know the truth.
Right.
I did wind up telling him the truth about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when he started having some mental health scares. And once I told him, he, I think that day he started to look at me differently. He's really become very aware of if I'm by myself, like if I'm going grocery shopping and I would be going by myself, he volunteers to come with me because, Mom, you've got one arm that works. I'm permanently disabled. I pulled by jumping out of the truck that night, my nerves were pulled out of my spinal column, and now I have very little use of my left arm. But I have excruciating nerve pain every second of every day. So I live with my decision every second of every day.
Right.
But he is volunteering to come with me kind of as my protector. He's 16 now and he is very, very wise beyond his years. But when I started sharing my story, it became aware to me that, or brought up to me that there were more people that would need my help outside of just those in my community.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've started sharing my story publicly on podcasts.
So my next question was, if somebody would have reached out, would have it helped at all? Would have got you out of that headspace?
No, no, because my daughter tried talking to me several times. My best friend tried talking to me several times. I was going to my therapist prior to this happening, but I was not ever telling her the truth about what was going on. I would tell her what I thought she wanted to hear. That way, it would not require me to come to her more often.
Right.
And that's that's where everything, really, the lies is what started everything. And when I started telling the truth, that's when I found that, I walked through the fire of hell and faced those demons and realized how many people I had hurt and how many people I had to talk to try to mend relationships with. I don't have any relationship with anybody on my side of my family except 4 people. And I'm the third oldest of 9.
Would
And
that, I know you're talking about you're going through and trying to mend relationships and just, apologizing for your own actions because the people you hurt, did that trigger you at all? Was that triggering, or did that even bring more depression and self doubt and self worth, worthlessness?
it did. It did. I had all of those feelings prior to it. And then once I started trying to mend these relationships, absolutely those thoughts started coming back of I'm worthless. Look at how I treated this person,
Mhm.
and that's another reason why I was going to therapy every week, once a week. And if I started mending a relationship, like for example, with my daughter, I had to go more than once a week because I was having such a hard time with number one, the fact that we didn't have a relationship,
Right.
and number two, the fact that look at everything that I just put this teenage girl through. And what is it and what did it do to her mental health? And, that was really hard to come to terms with. And so if anybody else had reached out, I wouldn't have thought anything about it. I would have ignored them. I wouldn't have done anything to change what I was doing because, like I said, I felt like I didn't deserve any better.
Right. Being in the relationship that you're in, the abusive relationship, really it does lower our self-esteem and our self-value and our self-worth so much, because we teach people that it's acceptable to treat us however they want to,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
And it's an endless cycle. And until you can break away from that, it's going to be an endless cycle. And I don't know that I would have broken away from it if I hadn't have tried to kill myself.
Right.
Or maybe I wouldn't have been with my best friend at the time that I did it, and I would have been successful.
Yeah. you know and I've so part of my story is my wife. I found my wife hanging in my closet, and it was due to her addiction and depression and everything else. I was also an addict. And so at first, I think survivors of the spouses and relatives and family members of the person that committed it, I think they do feel that it's very selfish, you know, and that's coming from my point of view.
Mhm.
That was a selfish act to me at that point in time. But now I can actually sit back and see it was selfless. It wasn't she was trying to get rid of the pain, her pain. She was trying to end everybody else's pain too, because there's with her depression and addiction, her swings were so up and down. It was all over the place, and the addiction didn't help. And well, let make everybody else's life better, you know.
Right.
And so it was really in her eyes. I really believe that it was a selfless act. In mine, totally different. I'm like, that's pretty fucking selfish. I
Right.
was mad. I still had the guilt of it though. I still had the guilt and the pain and everything else that came with it, of the what if, the survivor's guilt. you know
Yes.
and and so you know those people that say that it's really selfish, at times it can be, at times,
Yes.
but for the most part it's more selfless than anything else.
Yeah, I thought my kids would be better off without me. I thought that my kids' fathers, once they found out that I had tried to kill myself and survived, I also thought, well, both of my kids' fathers are probably hoping that I'd have succeeded because then they wouldn't have to deal with, another parent. And it wasn't until just recently that I found out that that was further from the truth. My daughter told me that's not at all what either of them thought that.
Right.
And so I was having survivor's guilt because why did I live? I was having guilt of, now, like I said, I've got to try to mend these relationships, but I was also asking myself why? Why did I live? Why is he putting me through this knowing that I hurt all these other people? So I felt that I was being punished by living. and by now having to face what I had done and
Yeah.
face all the people that I hurt.
And I find the same thing for myself is, I had a really good screaming and cussing match at God. And he showed me the error of my ways. Let's be real, you know, like he will do. But I really had a deep conversation with him, and I was really, really pissed off. That's what I found. I was really, really angry. All these other chances that he's given me, all these answered or unanswered prayers that he's given me, throughout my whole entire life, this one incident really pissed me off,
Yeah.
you know, and so that was basically my coming to Jesus moment, because he's always been part of my life. I grew up with him, you know, in churches, outside of church, he was always there. Yet that moment right there, was a lot of told you, you know,
Hmm.
and it really was eye opening. And it's helped me through my grief, and it's helped me through my recovery also. And it's helped me speak to other people, and I think that is the best thing I could do, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was given a second chance for a reason. And yes, the reason is look at the family that I now have in my corner. And it's not my family, it's my
Right.
husband's family and my son in law's family and my two daughters in law, their family. And even my husband's ex wife and her fiance. We're family. And I wouldn't have thought that I'd be friends with my husband's ex-wife, but we share kids, we share grandkids.
Right.
It's just what you do. And so now I'm realizing that no, family's not blood. It's the family that you make. All of my employees were family.
And
And I would have missed out on my three beautiful grandkids that I get to see every day.
yeah,
That and even now it's doing it to me. I cry sometimes when I sit back and I just think of how good my life is and how I
how much you would have
tried to,
missed.
yeah, and I tried to end it all over something that I could have gotten away from without doing that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, multiple people have asked me if you could go back to that day and change your decision, would you? And honestly, no, I would
No,
not.
because you wouldn't be the person to be able to speak about it now.
Exactly. I would
No.
love to go back and have the use of my left arm. I would love to go back and not have the nerve pain all day, every day. But number one, the nerve pain means that I'm alive. And number two, just because I have one arm that doesn't work very well doesn't mean that I'm less of a person. I've learned how to adapt. There's always ways to adapt. I've learned how to drive a semi one-handed, to run along with the guys during our silage business or during the silage season. I've learned how to help work cattle with one
Yeah.
hand. I've learned how to change a diaper with one hand. And there's a lot of things that I miss being able to do. Silly things like typing on a computer with two hands. I was a very fast typist, but now I can't type very fast. But I really would not go back and change anything because if I wouldn't have been successful that night, I would have been another night. I
Yeah.
guarantee that.
So you don't think that if you weren't successful that night, but if you didn't change, you think you would have been successful?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had suicidal ideation. I can recall the very first time was when I was 14.
Yeah.
after I got raped, and then found out that my family really didn't. They just,
Care.
yeah, yeah, it happened. Well, I guess you shouldn't have been doing what you were doing, and that was that.
Yeah.
So that was when I first had, or when I had my first thoughts of suicide.
Well, if they don't care about me that enough for that, then what really am I here for? Type thing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the family that I don't have today is because they weren't there in my hard times. So
They don't
why should I
deserve to
let?
be there in your good times.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't need the drama in my life. And that's what my family is. Everybody's got, they thrive on drama. So I will keep the ones in my family that I think deserve to be part of my life, and the others can go away.
My cat jumped up here. It's the shaky camera cat. It's the only cat that I know that likes. Its name is Trouble. Its mom's name is freaking Dum Dum. So those are my two feline friends. They're more like little terrors and demons, but they're mine. You know. But yeah, on that subject, it's crazy. You really find out who your friends are and who is meant to be around you in times of stress and in times of like suicide, judgment.
Yes. Look at how
And
much I put my husband through. The night that I
you
jumped
know,
out of his truck, he had to load me back up into his truck, get me back to my house. He was trying to clean me up before he realized exactly the extent of my injuries. So he called the ambulance and got me to the helicopter. And then he had a whole bunch of blood that he had to clean out of his truck.
wow.
And then look at all of the mental hardship that I put on him and everything that he had to deal with after that,
Yeah.
especially for 2 days not knowing if I was alive or not. But
Yeah.
ever since I come out of the mental hospital, he has been by my side, and we have been fighting this battle together.
And that goes to say something, God puts the right people in our path for a reason.
Exactly.
And it's just that we do gotta, you know what? We are all worth it. We're all here on purpose for a purpose. It
Yes.
doesn't, you might not know your purpose. You might not ever know your purpose, but you are here on purpose, you
Yes.
know? And tell me a little bit more about your books. I'm seeing it like over here on my other screen over here, and I'm trying not to read about it as I'm trying to talk to you. It's really difficult sometimes. I'm just letting you know, it's really difficult sometimes.
Yes, yes. So my aunt was part of a book a year ago, and it's a collaboration with multiple other authors. And she got me in touch with the publisher of the book and told me that told me that she thought my story would be good for the book. So I spoke with him for a couple hours, sharing my story. We were talking back and forth, and a year later, I now have, it's called Born to Risk. It's Risking It All: Stories of Courage. So the idea behind this book is asking you, what is your greatest risk that led to your greatest reward? Well, my greatest risk was jumping out of the truck that night. But my greatest reward was deciding to live. And so my chapter tells, it's just a snippet. There's only 1,500 words, and you don't realize how fast 1,500 words
Oh,
goes until you start writing down your story.
it
So
seems forever when you're writing it, but
yes, I had to cut out a lot. I had to pick and choose what the best things would be to go in my chapter, but it is now published, and it's out there for everyone to read. They're not up for sale on Amazon or anything like that. You have to actually get in touch with an author of the book, or one of the authors in the book. So it's myself and 25 other authors. There will be a documentary that comes out as well. It won't come out until next year. I'm in the second edition. My aunt was in the first edition, and then next year there will be a veterans edition, and
Mm,
next year will also be the documentary. And so I will
uh,
be part of the documentary, just 3.5 minutes, which again, you don't realize how fast that goes.
yeah, I'm telling you.
But along with, if you purchase my book, along with the book, you get one of my wristbands. It's that say "You Are Enough,"
Awesome.
and I also have a Facebook group with that same name with my wristband
You
as the
are enough
picture.
on Facebook.
Yes.
I'm friend requesting you now.
And you can find if you pull up that name on Facebook, you might get several, but my black
Mhm.
wristband is the cover photo. And I'm also selling my wristbands. So you buy the book, you get the one wristband for free, and then you'll get the documentary next year when it comes out. Only the people that buy the book get the documentary. And then I'm selling the wristbands, and with the wristbands, they will support like Project Semicolon, and they will support the You Are Enough movement, I want to say. I don't know if you would call me a movement yet, but I am trying to be. I'm trying to get out
And I
there
really
every
do like
day.
the semicolon. That's a big thing because nobody's story's over.
Right.
You
I
know.
even have a tattoo of it on
Yeah.
my wrist. I was crazy. I got the tattoo 1 month before I tried to kill myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big statement right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because and that's one of the things I love to say. We are all are enough. We're never going to be too much for somebody, the right people. We're always going to be enough for the right people.
Yes.
And you just got to find your right people.
Yes, that is a fact. So yeah, when I got in touch with my publisher, Emilio, he challenged me to a 30-day Facebook Live.
Oh no.
And yes, that was on, what day was that? That was my very first day was on September 19th of 2024. I came onto Facebook Live. I talked about whatever I wanted. Sometimes it was something that affected me personally. Sometimes it was just a random topic. My husband or my son gave me topics sometimes. And pretty much every single day I would give, or I would tie it into my story or my life. And I hit day 365 on September 19th of 2025.
Nice.
I took the 30-day challenge and ran with it. And I was not going to stop because at the end of my 30 days, I realized that I had more to say. So I showed up every single day. There was a couple times my son showed up for me because I was pretty sick or I had laryngitis. And but he showed up and he spoke for me that day or those couple days. So, yes, I'm on pretty much every single one of the major platforms. I've got, I think out of my 365 videos, I think I've got like 360 of them posted to my YouTube channel.
Nice.
And now instead of going live every day, I am posting something every day in my You Are Enough page or group. And sometimes it might be a little funny, sometimes it might be serious, but I still always try to make sure that it ties into what I'm trying to, the message that I'm
Yeah.
trying to give.
And last question is I ask everybody if there's anything that you want one person or anybody to take away from this, if you could deliver any type of message, what would it be?
You are enough. I I know people who have died from suicide. One of my best friends in school, her husband died recently of suicide. And when I went to his funeral and I gave her a huge hug, I said, I know where he was at, or I have an idea of where he was at. And if you need to talk, please reach out to me. And that's the same thing that I tell everybody on my social media. I am not a licensed therapist, doctor, nothing, but I've got the life experience. And I think the life experience comes with more authority than a piece of paper on the wall. So if you don't think you're enough, if you're having doubts, if you feel like you're worthless, you can find me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Find me, message me.
Absolutely.
I might not know you from the person down the road, or you might be someone that I've known for a while. But if you need help, if you want to talk to someone who's been there, please reach out to me. I'm an open book. I will tell you everything that I went through during that time of my life, even the hard times. I sometimes, when I was getting people like in Walmart, oh, what happened to your arm? Oh, a shark bit it. I was attacked by a bear.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Where were you
Something
at?
outrageous,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I was in
Yeah.
Kansas. Well, where are there sharks in Kansas? Because not everybody, when I was trying to figure life out as a disabled woman,
Right.
I could not answer those questions to people that I didn't know because they
Yeah.
didn't need to know.
Right.
But once my husband convinced me that I needed to write my story down, my aunt convinced me, my daughter convinced me, I started talking to my bonus sons and their wives and my daughter's husband and my aunt, and they started reassuring me that my story has had power behind it, and I needed to share that out with people, because even if I help just one person, my life will be fulfilled. My mission will feel completed because I helped someone. I helped someone off of that cliff.
Well, Lindsay, I know it was a very short time. We had a problem with the link, but I do have another schedule, and I really enjoyed having you come up here. So thank you. And remember, you are enough too. Don't forget that.
Thank you. You are too. And
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to get a hold of me, I've got copies of my book for sale, wristbands for sale. Like I said, I'm on pretty much all the major platforms.
Well, I appreciate you coming up here, and like I appreciate all the guests that come up here and I come in contact with. So thank you for being part of my podcast, and thank you for making the world a better place.
Thank you. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.